All right, right now we want to get you to some breaking news out of Southeast D.C. That's where police responded to a shooting in the 3600 block of 22nd Street. It's happened around 1 o'clock this afternoon, right near the D.C.-Maryland line. So when officers got to the scene there, they found 3 men who had been shot. All 3 transported to a nearby hospital. Police tell us they were conscious and breathing, but they didn't share anything else about their conditions. Right now, we don't know what led up to the shooting or if investigators have honed in on any suspects. So apologies, we don't know a lot yet. We're working to get more information on this, and we will update you as soon as we hear. In the news at 4 with breaking news, yet another shooting unfolding in the district. D.C. police telling us they're investigating a deadly shooting that happened inside of an apartment building in Southeast. Good afternoon, I'm Adam Longo.
And I'm Simone D'Alba. The shooting happened on 25th Street Southeast. It's right off of Suitland Parkway, and it's not far from the D.C.-Maryland line. Police say they were alerted to gunshots in the area around 2 this afternoon.
So we have a live look at the scene we can show you right now. When officers arrived, they found a man inside an apartment building who had been shot. He died at the scene. So far, police not releasing any information about a potential suspect or suspects. If you know anything about what may have led up to this violence or saw anything in that area, definitely give D.C. police a...
We got some breaking news in the district, and it's pretty distressing. A deadly shooting in Southeast. Police say this involves 2 crime scenes, both near the Congress Heights Metro Station. Investigators found a young man shot in his upper body inside the car. They believe this is a teenager. He did not survive. Now, this has been a deadly night in D.C. This young person is one of 3 people who died in a total of 6 shootings. 6 shootings in one night. What is going on? If you know anything, come forward.
Where prosecutors allege 18-year-old Amante Moody fired 26 shots from an AR-15 semi-automatic rifle into the street April 22nd. Prosecutors say he was aiming at an SUV that was driving away during the 2 a.m. incident after a dispute over clothes. The incident caught on at least 3 different cameras. No injuries were reported, although one viewer sent us these photos of a bullet which allegedly hit the family's car during the incident.
New information has been released about a D.C. man accused of firing 26 shots from an AR-15 rifle into a D.C. street. Court documents reveal the judge went against his own instincts to keep the 18-year-old defendant in jail before trial after repeated pleas from his public defender to send him home. The 141-page transcript from a court hearing on May 3rd revealed Magistrate Judge Nolan initially thought it was a bad idea to grant pretrial release to 18-year-old Amante Moody, accused of shooting at an SUV driving away in Independence Avenue in Southeast on April 22nd.
Brand new information about the release of a teenage suspect accused of firing 26 shots from an AR-15 rifle into a D.C. street. Incredibly, no one was hit in all of this. Court documents obtained by WUSA 9 reveal that the judge went against his own instincts to keep the teen in jail before trial after repeated pleas from the public defender. Our chief investigative reporter Eric Flack is back on the case for us tonight. Flack, we know that hundreds of thousands of people have seen this video posted on your X account, which allegedly shows the teen emptying that semi-automatic rifle into that neighborhood.
Larry, it's a stunning video. So many people on social media asking the same question. Why would the judge let someone charged with a crime like that out of jail before trial? Tonight, this 141-page transcript of that court hearing on May 3rd revealed even the judge initially thought it was a bad idea.
The U.S. Attorney's Office from the District of Columbia says 3 different cameras captured the incident. Moody is charged with assault with a dangerous weapon and possession of a firearm with a crime of violence.
18-year-old Amante Moody is accused of firing 26 shots from an AR-15 semi-automatic rifle at a SUV driving away on Independence Avenue in Southeast on April 22nd. He's now charged with assault with a dangerous weapon and possession of a firearm with a crime of violence. In a hearing last Friday, Magistrate Court Judge Nolan found probable cause for the case to go to trial and seemed likely to send Moody back to jail pre-trial. A prosecutor telling the judge, "I think we all know that we're lucky that this wasn't a homicide." Judge Nolan agreeing, saying, "The concern I have is that this action could have killed someone." The court transcripts show the suspect's public defender continually fights the idea of sending Moody back to jail, asking the judge to release Moody with only a GPS monitor, a curfew, and activities during the day, including finishing his high school diploma and job training arranged by his aunt.
Crime in Washington, D.C. is directly related to the city's demographics, geography, and unique criminal justice system. The district's population reached a peak of 802,178 in 1950. Shortly after that, the city began losing residents, and by 1980, Washington had lost 1/4 of its population. The population lost to the suburbs also created a new demographic pattern, which divided affluent neighborhoods west of Rock Creek Park from the less well-off neighborhoods to the east. Despite being the headquarters of multiple federal law enforcement agencies, such as the Federal Bureau of Investigation and the United States Drug Enforcement Administration, the national crack epidemic of the 1980s and 1990s greatly affected the city and led to large increases in crime. The number of homicides in Washington peaked in 1991 at 482, a rate of 80.6 homicides per 100,000 residents, and the city eventually became known as the quote-unquote murder capital of the United States.
D.C. police investigating a deadly shooting in Southeast that happened just before 4 on Saturday afternoon on L Street. 22-year-old Charles Towles was pronounced dead on that scene. Police say they believe 3 or 4 suspects were spotted fleeing that scene in a red sedan. Saturday's shooting brings the district to more than 230 homicides this year.
Look at your screen. If you recognize any of the people in this video, police want to hear from you. This was a crazy day. Police say these suspects started firing at each other near a business on Benning Road in Southeast last Thursday. Officers in the area heard the gunshots and they responded. And that's when police say these men started firing at them. No one was hurt, but police are looking for the 4 men involved.
Amonte Moody is a DC rapper who goes by the name 60 from a group/gang called Third World. The night of the shooting, he was literally robbed for the shoes he was wearing by a group of men in a car. Amonte Moody then ran back to his home in black and white socks and returned with his AR-15 pistol. Amonte Moody, 18, is charged with assault with a dangerous weapon and possession of a firearm during a crime of violence for allegedly firing multiple shots at a car driving away on a public street at the 1700 block of Independence Avenue Southeast on April 22nd. There were no injuries or property damage reported. According to court documents, Moody allegedly disassembled his firearm and hid it in a ceiling following the shooting.
The shooting happened on Independence Avenue Southeast at the end of April. No one was injured in this indiscriminate shooting.
Moody was previously granted release by D.C. Superior Court Judge Lloyd Urban Nolan Jr. on May 3rd, requiring the defendant to be under electronic monitoring and subject to home confinement.
A D.C. teen accused of firing an AR-15 dozens of times in the Hill East neighborhood in the middle of the street has now been let out of jail while he awaits his trial. News 4 obtained 3 different camera angles which prosecutors say show 18-year-old Amonte Moody running out of his home and opening fire on a car. The shooting happened on Independence Avenue Southeast at the end of April. No one was injured in this indiscriminate shooting. Court documents show a judge released Moody from jail to home confinement with a GPS monitor. Prosecutors, though, have now filed an emergency motion to reverse the judge's decision. They called Moody a, quote, danger to the community and said that no release conditions could assure public safety. They also said GPS devices are only monitored during business hours. So if a defendant leaves home on a Friday night, no one would know until Monday. The hearing for the emergency motion is scheduled for May 15th.
3 days after Judge Nolan's ruling, the prosecution filed an emergency motion for review of a magistrate judge's order granting the defendant's pretrial release and requests for an emergency hearing in which they argue that, quote-unquote, defendants charged with these offenses pose special risk of dangerousness. An emergency hearing was held on May 22nd, and Judge Arthur overturned Judge Nolan's decision to release Moody, effectively ordering Moody's detainment.
All right, we've got an update tonight on an incident that stunned a community. Police say an 18-year-old unloaded an AR-15 rifle into a street in his neighborhood.
Yeah, you can see right there it was all caught on camera, and what was even more shocking is what happened after. A judge released that teen to family instead of ordering him to be held in jail. Well, tonight, a higher court judge has thrown out that decision and sent that teen back to jail.
Our chief investigative reporter Eric Flack has been on this case since the day that teen was released, and we have to tell you, this story contains video and the sound of gunfire, and it may be disturbing.
I can't tell you the number of times we've heard bullets flying in my neighborhood. I'm grateful for the judge for sending this individual to jail. He belongs in jail.
Former ANC Commissioner Denise Krepp lives just blocks from Independence Avenue in Southeast, where prosecutors allege 18-year-old Amonte Moody fired 26 shots from an AR-15 semi-automatic rifle into the street April 22nd. Prosecutors say he was aiming at an SUV that was driving away during the 2 a.m. incident after a dispute over clothes. The incident caught on at least 3 different cameras. No injuries were reported, although one viewer sent us these photos of a bullet which allegedly hit the family's car during the incident. Despite felony charges of assault with a dangerous weapon and possession of a firearm during a crime of violence, Moody walked out of D.C. Superior Court less than 2 weeks later after a magistrate judge surprised prosecutors by granting him pretrial release.
Moody, is there anything you'd like to say?
Placing Moody on round-the-clock home detention, equipped with a GPS monitor and a stay-away order from the occupants in the car. The U.S. Attorney's Office immediately asked for an emergency hearing to revoke the teen's release, saying despite defense attorney arguments which emphasized the defendant's supportive family and lack of a criminal history, prosecutors say none of it stopped Moody from allegedly emptying that AR-15 onto a public street where, quote, any innocent passerby or resident could have fallen victim. In court Wednesday, Superior Court Judge Errol Arthur said charges as serious as the ones Moody is facing carry a presumption the defendant will be held in jail before trial, unless the defense offers convincing evidence the community would not be at risk. The judge, citing those videos over and over again, said the seriousness of the charges, the risk the shooter posed to the community that night, and the fact the teen allegedly had an AR-15 in the first place and knew how to use it outweighed Moody's lack of a criminal history, sending him back to jail to await his trial.
But for the grace of God, nobody died.
That judge telling the courtroom, I listened to the audio, I watched the video, I couldn't keep up with how many shots there were. Eric Flack, WUSA 9.
And Amonte Moody's trial is set for August 27th.
On June 18th, Moody's defense attorneys requested Judge Arthur to reconsider Moody's release, arguing for strict conditions, a 24-hour curfew, and a stay-away order from D.C., all while under electronic monitoring and home confinement. Court transcript shows Moody's public defender, Kavya Naai, continually argued against the idea of sending Moody back to jail. She initially asked the judge to release him with a GPS monitor, curfew, and activities during the day, including finishing his high school diploma and job training arranged by his aunt. Naai also told the judge that Moody had a supportive family, many of whom were in court, that were willing to take him in and help monitor him while on pretrial release. Prosecutors pushed back by telling the judge, quote-unquote, all of these were available to him when he decided to unload 26 rounds out of an AR in the middle of the street.
The public defender also told the judge Moody had a supportive family, many of whom were in court, willing to take him in and help monitor him while on pretrial release. But prosecutors pushed back, telling the judge all of these were available to him when he decided to unload 26 rounds out of an AR-15 in the middle of the street. And again, the judge seems to agree, saying, for something to escalate to the point where you feel you need to go into the middle of the street and let off 26 shots, I don't know what set of circumstances, short of incarceration, I can find. But 8 different times, Moody's defense attorney rejects the judge's arguments, saying Moody had no prior criminal history, had a developing brain, and that his personality changed after his grandfather died. The defense pleading with the judge that Moody had already been in jail for 2 weeks, and that 2 weeks of incarceration is not where he wanted to end up again. Eventually, Judge Nolan relents, releasing Moody on 24/7 home incarceration at his stepfather's house in Maryland with a GPS ankle monitor, warning, "The concern I have is for the safety of the community." And a lot of people also have that concern right now. The U.S. Attorney for the District of Columbia has filed an emergency order to reverse the magistrate judge's decision to grant that teen shooting suspect pre-trial release. That hearing will happen next week, and Larry, we will be there.
Remarkable that nobody was hurt in all of this.
Truly.
Eric Flack, thank you so much, sir. We appreciate it.
A shooting defendant rejected a plea offer extended by the prosecution in front of D.C. Superior Court Judge Rainey Brandit on August 12th. Amante Moody, 18, is charged with endangerment with a firearm and possession of a firearm during a crime of violence for his alleged involvement in a shooting incident on April 22nd on the 1700 block of Independence Avenue Southeast. No injuries were reported. During the hearing, the prosecution extended an offer which required Moody plead guilty to 4 counts of assault with a dangerous weapon and carrying a pistol without a license in return for not seeking an indictment or greater charges. Under sentencing guidelines, Moody could be sentenced to a maximum of 10 years for assault with a dangerous weapon and for a maximum of 5 years for carrying a pistol without a license. Moody rejected the plea offer, saying he wanted to continue to trial scheduled on August 27th. According to court documents, Moody allegedly fired at his family members 27 times before fleeing into a friend's house. After being granted an emergency search warrant, officers from the Metropolitan Police Department found parts of a gun Moody used in the ceiling of his friend's house. Alright y'all, and there y'all have it. That's been the crazy story of Amante Moody, aka 60 from Third World. He got robbed for his shoes, came back with that ARP and got to busting at his own family. That's crazy, bro. Hey man, get in the comments, man. Let me know what y'all think. Drillers and trappers, we out here trapping and drilling, just running it up, man. Hey, don't go nowhere. Watch that next video. Gang!